Hey, this is Brian Lane from CrowdScribed, and this is 6.5 Questions with Brad Lomenick. Brad is the author of The Catalyst Leader, and his middle name is Russell?
Steven.
Steven. Okay.
Close. RS. I mean, that's
Yeah.
close.
Thanks for being here, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, question number one. Your first book came out in 2013, April 2013. I'm curious what surprised you most about the book writing process?
The biggest surprise was how much work you have to put into it. And the fact that most of us who are writers are probably at our core perfectionists or people who want to create something great, and that you never are done. I mean, literally, I could still be editing, and I felt like that I could add something else to the mix, and another story, another quote. So that was the hardest thing, was feeling like that there was still something else to do versus going, all right, here it is, I'm out, it's ready, it's great.
Question number two. Being the host of a large conference, you've got connections with a lot of great writers. I'm curious if any of them gave you any good advice during the process.
That's a good question. A lot of people did. Probably the best advice was from Mark Batterson, who is a prolific writer and is written tons of books, and I think one of the best writers for our generation. And he said, make sure it's personal and that you like it, in the sense that it's your voice, that you don't get too far away from who you are.
Okay.
And a lot of times I think we can start to and not intentionally, but start to be fake, even in writing a book, because we're trying to sound like somebody else, or and that was just really good advice for me, was to just be myself.
I think I've run across that too, where you start to write and you think, okay, I need to put my book voice on now.
Yeah, exactly. Like the what's his name that did all like the voiceovers? What's his name? James Earl Jones.
James Earl Jones. Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's not my voice, though.
No, and people don't want book voice; they want Brad's voice. So,
who would be your book voice, by the way? I know I'm not supposed to be asking the questions, but
who would be my book voice?
Yeah.
That's a good question. You ever notice that when somebody says that's a good question, what they really mean is I don't really have an answer? Yeah, so that is a great question. Speaking of great questions, question number three.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about your writing process for this book. Being a busy guy, having so much else going on, did you try to chip away little by little, or did you carve out big chunks of time to write it?
Yeah, well, I worked with a writer, so
okay.
That was my process, was actually partnering with a writer, and the process was literally like outlining for me and lots of content that I've been building for the last several years, and then working with the writer over the course of 6 to 7 months.
Okay.
And each chapter painstakingly going through and being interviewed. So I literally would, the writer would interview me, create some content, send it back. We'd walk through it. I'd make edits, send it back. And it was a real continual process. A lot of writers, or a lot of ghostwriters, many times with an author, will show up for a weekend or 3 days, and they'll come back a month later with the manuscript. And that wasn't the process at all for me, because I needed it to be my voice, but I also had so many practical things that I had written on my blog and had stored up, that I wanted to make sure we were walking through each of those and fitting them into the slots.
I'm kind of shooting off that for writers out there who are looking maybe to team up with a ghostwriter. Was this somebody you had a relationship with before, or is it somebody that was new just for this book?
Yeah. Well, the writer is Jonathan Merritt. So a lot of people know Jonathan.
Yeah.
He writes his own books.
Yeah.
And so we were friends, had been friends for quite a while, just because we both live in Atlanta.
Yeah.
And so that was important for me, was to work with somebody that knew me, that knew Catalyst, and that knew that had a style that was young, because again, my audience for the Catalyst Leader was primarily a younger leader that I was writing to.
Yeah.
And I wanted to have somebody that was actually young.
Question number 4. I know you keep a spreadsheet of names. Kind of, you talked about this on your blog, just connections.
Which you're on.
Okay, nice. We'll get to that in a second.
Yeah.
Possible speakers, young leaders, different things like that. I'm curious about if you use that spreadsheet kind of in terms of marketing, and maybe if you could just talk for a second about how important it is for authors to network and connect with people.
Yeah, I do. I do a little bit.
Okay.
I'm pretty particular about the friend network and making sure that when people get something from me, or an email or a call or whatever, that it's not, oh gosh, another one of those from Lomenick,
Yeah.
versus oh cool, like I would love to help, and those are two different responses that as somebody who's trying to steward a relational circle, or a network, you got to be really careful about. The biggest lesson is that if you have a network like that, then make sure you're customizing your ask or your offering or your involvement to each individual.
Okay.
Because that's when people, I think, start to lose interest, is when they feel like they're being mass marketed to.
Question number 5. Of the last 10 books that you've read, how many were in print, ballpark, and how many were digital?
I would say half and half.
Okay.
That's probably, it may be 60-40, but 60-40 digital, 40 print. But
Okay.
I would say half and half is probably close to that.
Question number 6. Let's go back to your book for a second. You draw on leadership lessons from lots of peers that you have and connections that you have. I'm curious as to what happened to the lengthy chapter about me. I'm assuming that it ended up on the editing room floor kind of at the last second.
Well, Brian, like when you get one of those albums that has the hidden track
Yes.
at the end, where you have to wait like a minute and then you hear it starts.
Yep.
Or a movie, at the end of the credits, there's the promo reel or the bloopers.
Yes. Yep.
You are in that hidden track, hidden
Oh,
chapter
interesting.
that still hasn't been released yet.
Gotcha.
So it's secret. I can't really tell you any more than that.
Okay.
But it'll be coming out soon. So you might just want to hold on for that.
Question 7. College football or NFL?
Oh, dude, it's not even in the running, college football. I mean,
See, you're so wrong.
I'm
Wrong about this.
I'm so from Oklahoma, first of all.
Yeah.
And I'm so in the South, second of all.
Yeah.
So the combination of growing up in Oklahoma, where we have no pro teams,
Yeah.
except for the Thunder, and being in the South, where college football rules, there's no comparison in my book.
Well, you can find more of Brad and more about his book at bradlomenick.com. And if you want to connect with readers and authors, find out about great books, or maybe even write your own, you can do that at CrowdScribed.com. Thanks, Brad, for your time.
Absolutely, man. Thank you.